Okay, so, Debbie, how long have you been here at Sunnyside?
At Sunnyside since we opened in 2000.
Okay, and have you always been in special ed?
Always. I have never taught general ed.
And so how long has that been?
38 years.
Things have changed.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Just a little bit, yes.
Okay, good. And so what would you say your educational philosophy is? Do you see it more as a broader in gen ed, or do you feel like you focus more special ed?
Well, I think I'm always thinking about what's happening in general ed and what can I do to make my kids who have special needs fit into the general ed classroom.
Okay. And let's see, what made you interested in going into special ed?
I think I started out in physical therapy, and I knew I wanted to help people, but I thought I was going to be stuck in a hospital, and I knew I wanted to work with kids. So I had a friend that was working on her learning disabilities degree, and I thought, ooh, that sounded fun, and I fell in love with the whole special education concept.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay, and so what would you say has been the biggest change over the course of the years? We've done some reading about changing law and everything like that. So what have you noticed just in 30 years? The big difference has been?
When we first started out, we talked about processes like visual motor, visual integration, brain processes, and we found out when we taught processes, it didn't actually help the kids in their everyday curriculum. So now we're really focusing more on curriculum and what can we do to strengthen what their strengths are, how can I strengthen those and then make them more successful in the general ed curriculum.
Okay, and so with Common Core coming around, has that made it even more challenging?
Very much more challenging because many of my kids have language difficulties, and Common Core is very heavily language based, and I've found that it's much more difficult for our kids.
And so when you're writing goals, I mean, having to take into account those Common Core standards, does it, I mean, it makes the goal of writing even more challenging.
It does, but I guess I look at, here's what the Common Core goal is, and I have to break it down into its more manageable steps. Yeah, it's finer steps, and what little benchmarks can I make along the way, so eventually they'll get to that Common Core. A lot of my kids aren't going to get the rigor of Common Core, but if I can get them so that it's usable, a skill is usable in everyday life, then we're good.
Okay, and so when you are looking at designing interventions, because we spent a lot of time learning about RTI this semester, and so when you're looking at doing that, what do you focus on most? Like, I know the district gives us our MTSS strategies, but do you use that, or where do you pull from for your interventions?
Well, you have to look at what's the outcome you want and then break it down to more manageable steps. But what I have found is you can teach all these little steps, but if you don't then integrate it into what they have to do in everyday life, they learn this step and they learn this step, but they don't learn how to use it. So I feel like even though I teach those steps, I then have to teach them, now this is where you use it and how you apply it. You've got some good words for me.
Yeah, you know, trying. Okay, so I know that you and Jane have done some co-teaching in math. Do you enjoy that?
Love it. That's my most favorite part of the day. Mainly because I get to see what do your typical kids do, and I can see kind of gauge where my kids are functioning. And my kids are the higher functioning kids in math. Those are the ones that I put in a collaboration group setting. And it's fun to do. Sometimes I'll take a high group, and sometimes I take the low group. So it's kind of fun for me to get a feel for it. Yeah, and I think it's good for them too. Like, is it okay to say that Ava is in that setting? Because he was one that I found he was really doing quite well for me, but I don't know that he was then coming back to your class last year and applying what he had learned.
Right.
In that classroom, I can really make sure he's applying those skills.
And so would you be interested in doing it in other subjects or just math?
I've done it in reading, I've done it in writing. Math seems to be the easiest because that seems to be a little more black and white.
Right. Yeah. Easier to go through. Okay, and so how often do you get to collaborate with other special education teachers? So I know that we've got Karen here half-time, but do you get to collaborate with anybody outside of
We have, once a quarter, we have PLCs for our resource teachers. And then, of course, when we have our district in services, we collaborate a lot. We do a lot of emailing back and forth. We have a group question that will come out, and we'll all reply to the group question. So we'll do it that way also.
And so would you say that you use I'm just thinking about how I coordinate with my team. Like we plan together, and so it makes it easier for us when we all are bouncing ideas off each other. Do you ever do that with you? Like if you have a kiddo that like I don't know what to do with him, how do I reach out to somebody ever?
Yeah, sometimes, and that's where we get that group question. We go out. I've got a kid that has a selective mutism. How do you teach the reading? And so then we'll all reply to that. So that's been very helpful. And I know they do that in the speech department. And then Kara and I will sometimes get together because we share kids, and then we'll talk about here's what I see in math, here's what she sees in reading. We do have some overlapping concerns, so that helps.
But what specific instructional practices do you use to address learning needs for your students? So like, if you look at like any of the all strategies that we've learned, so like do you do graphic organizers and a lot of that?
Yeah, and I do the anchor charts. I've started doing the anchor charts more, and I'm finding those really helpful. I do lots and lots of graphic organizers because that sends the visuals really help my kids. Any kind of an anchor of some sort that they can use. I think of Jake in particular. When we're doing division, he has a hundreds chart, and he has a multiplication chart, and he has a number line, and he knows how to use each one of those, and that's the only way I have gotten him to master long division.
What about technology? How do you incorporate it?
Over there, I have some different apps that I like. I don't use technologies as much as I like. I would like to use the Envision website, but obviously with several groups in here, it's hard to use that. So that's probably my lowest thing. I am not a techie.
Yeah.
So hey guys, I have also found in my I guess my opinion is technology does not replace good teaching, so it enhances good teaching. So I really try to do the teaching I need to do. Like now they're working on an app that we have already learned subtraction, and so hopefully they're practicing it.
Just for the reinforcement. Yeah. Okay, what about for adaptive type things? Like I know for Jake last year we let him type a lot of times. Do you have a lot of kids come in here and do that with you? Or?
We do some. I don't do that as much because most of my kids can write. I do use visual timers an awful lot. My iPad has a visual timer that it shows the red line and it goes back. That's very helpful for them. I don't have to use a whole lot of adaptive technology for these kids. I'm lucky that way. I did have a child with selective mutism one time, and to try to listen to him read and get to figure out how accurate it was, I ended up putting a microphone on him because he would whisper, and so he would put the microphone, and then I could listen and then see how accurate he was. But that's something that I did have to do.
Okay, we're almost done here. Okay, so what about formal and informal assessments? I know that the kids still have to take state assessments and district assessments and math tests and all of that, but what kind of informal type things do you do?
Well, a lot of just teacher made up tests that I will use. I use some of the MTSS things that we do. I also, formally, I have to give the Woodcock-Johnson, or we've used the, I can't think what the old one was. I don't know what it was, the Wyatt. We used to use the Wyatt, we've moved into Woodcock-Johnson, which is, of course, norm-based. But a lot of my criterion reference is things that I have made up. Here's my goal, here's the skill, and I'll make up a test.
Yeah. And so how will that go together with using the map? Because the map is new for us, so using the map data, like, I'm looking forward to grabbing it and taking it and saying, okay, these are the guys that I think I'll do for my TSS, but where should I go from here?
Yeah.
Which is probably what you'll do also.
Well, with Eamon, for example, I looked at the map. I had to write a math goal. So when he took the map, then I looked to see, I actually looked at all the data, where was he falling the lowest in his scores? And those were the goals that I actually, or the skills I picked out to put on his IEP. Yeah.
Did they align with what he had already had goals on?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. It was mostly the multiplication stuff because he doesn't know his facts. He's really good in data and measurement. He's really good in geometry. But that whole computation piece that involves any kind of multiplication, fractions, all that stuff, he couldn't do. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a question across general and special ed, but especially in special ed, sometimes I find that it's hard to motivate if they don't want to be here.
Yeah.
So how do you find that you motivate a reluctant learner in here?
Well, first of all, I develop a relationship. Hopefully I have a good relationship with kids, and so I can tell when they come in, sometimes they're not in a good mood. So I do a lot of joking around with them. I've gotten a lot of personal things, so we do a lot of talking about their families, a lot of talking about my family, which I have the time to do that. You wouldn't necessarily in a general class. We also have a point system too, that they earn points for paying attention, answering questions, being on task, getting their materials. So there's a point system that they earn. Some kids earn free time, some kids even just plain earn candy.
Yeah.
It works. It works. But I really think a lot of it is developing that relationship relationship with the kids. And they still will come in sometimes and are like, do I really have to do this? Okay, we all feel that way.
Okay, so I'm just curious, what do you find more challenging, working with intellectual challenges or behavioral challenges?
Behavior. Yeah, because you can't make it, if a kid's not going to do something, you can't make them. You know, intellectually, I can pare it down enough that they can be successful at some level. If they're being little turkeys, there's not a whole lot I can do but just write it out sometimes.
Because the emotional like side of it just makes it so much more challenging.
Yeah.
Because you have an emotional side of it also.
Yeah, and I'm trying to make things. I'm trying to take the sometimes when they're acting up, it's because they can't do it, and that's their way of getting around doing the work because it's too hard. So I'm trying to take that away so that doesn't become the problem. But some kids are just naughty, kids are naughty, and that's the hardest thing for me.
Okay. And so, what would you say? What type of professional development do you recommend? Do you go do anything outside of what the district provides?
Yeah, if you go into the district website on the ozone, there's some classes that I can go to, but within the special ed department, they're always having speakers that come in for even all this new IEP that we have. We have constant in-services on how to do that. We have constant in-services on the autism specialists. We'll put on workshops, we go in for that. A lot of after-school things, all of our professional development, as much as I'd like to be with Gen Ed sometimes, we have a lot of special ed speakers that come.
Okay. How, with the new IEP program that you have, how different is it? Like, sorry, let me get that. I'm stumbling on my words. So have you always taught in Olathe?
No, I taught in Arizona for a number of years.
So when you're looking at writing an IEP in Arizona versus here, how different? I mean, like.
Well, of course, over the years it's changed. When I used to write an IEP, this looks like a good goal, and if I measured it, I measured it. If I didn't, I didn't. But that was back in the early 80s. Now it's very, very much data-driven, and I look at what the kids need, and the new IEP system has the same components as the old one. It's just, it looks different.
And is it different district to district, state?
We all have the same components because it's federal law. We have to go by IDEA, but
as far as program, like there's a different program?
There is. I just got a little guy from South Carolina, and they do a lot of curriculum-based measurement. So everything was words per minute, and when he was doing math, it is digits per minute. So if he's doing computation, how many digits per minute did he get correct? Well, we all know that math is not just whether he can do his computation. There's all kinds of other things in there. And a lot of my kids are slow readers, but they're accurate readers. Well, if you just do CDM words per minute, then they're going to look terrible, even though they're pretty decent readers, but they're slow. So I don't go by the curriculum base. I know Blue Valley does some of that, Shawnee Mission does some of that. I'm more looking at the overall reading and how they're progressing.
After my conversation with Debbie, I was surprised to learn that she had never taught in a general education classroom, and I wondered how maybe that would be challenging in collaborating with Gen Ed if she wasn't really knowing where they were coming from. Although she didn't really mention it very much in the video, I know from experience in working with Debbie that she does use specific best practices that we've discussed, and she's wonderful in helping me to modify or make accommodations for the students in my class that need it. Our district has a very specified MTSS process, and a lot of times I feel like as the general education teacher, we're kind of on our own in determining what's best suited for our kids. I would like very much to have Debbie be more a part of that conversation, and so I think that she would be happy to do it if approached and invited to be part of the decision making. I was encouraged to hear Debbie talking about how much she enjoys team teaching with our other 5th grade teacher, and was hoping that maybe in the future she and I will be able to collaborate, and she could even come and teach some in my class to help those kids that would like to stay in and who are maybe just needing a little bit of extra support. Especially what we've learned with the benefits of team teaching, it sounds like a great idea. I enjoyed this assignment very much, and having the ability to discuss with somebody who is actually in the field, and it gave me a benchmark for where I know I want to go and where my goals are as a special education teacher.